Hello and welcome to Gus Codes. I am Gus, and in this session of xganso I'll be restructuring the code after the last refactor that I made. During my game development I tried to make it work first and then make it pretty. I have done 2 rounds of refactoring of xganso and I believe that the code is now in a good enough state to continue the development. However, during my last refactor, the modules grew too much in an unstructured way. Therefore, I'll go to this to review the current state of the code and restructure the modules to increase its cohesion. Let's jump in the code. Okay, we've been working in the editor, model and UI components. So let's see what each one of them have and how we can improve it. So first of all, let's create an init py in each one of these components. It's gonna be empty, but just to notify that this is somewhere to look for the code. First, the UI. We had to extend Pygame for some widgets and some control. And we have the widgets that has a base class and several widgets, so text input, button, text input, radio style, radio button and option picker, and also the toggle. And we have the panel, which is just a panel. So maybe one idea would be to merge them together in one file. The widgets file is already roughly big, but the panel wouldn't be that problematic. And the panel uses the widget, and the widget have only the observable and the options. So it doesn't have any dependency. What we can do here is maybe move the panel into the widget. And we add the list here. And maybe we rename the widgets to... That's a good question now. Maybe we can call it elements. Or okay, and then we can delete this one. And also we have to see this observable and option. Currently they are in the editor, but I don't think they should be there, but we'll get there later. Okay, for the model, so we have encoding, that's the part that encodes and decodes to XMAP and JSON. And we have the IO. Clearly they are not part of the model. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a new folder called IO. And put an init py and move the encoding and the IO, but here we're gonna call xmap IO. The encoding has all the dependencies on the model, that's fine, and the hexmap has, well, the hexmap and the encoding. That's also fine. I don't like the name too much, but I think it's fine for the time being. Good, and then the model. First we have the x coordinate. Is the coordinate representation, and it uses our vec2. Maybe our vec2, we have a float and an integer. That's not ideal, but that's what we have at the moment. And maybe we could move them to the hex coordinate because they are closely used together. And then we just add whatever is missing in the imports here, and we don't need this import anymore. So now we have the x coordinate that's self-contained with the basic definition and the coordinate. Although we could argue that the vector is not really a coordinate per se of the hex, but I would prefer to keep them together. And then we can delete this. Okay, and let's of course save everything. And all the dependencies that were altered as well. Next one, the hex geometry. So the geometry is responsible for setting up how the hexagon will look like in the screen. It uses these vectors, and now they are in the coordinate, so we can simply import the coordinate, and I think we have a very good structure here. So the coordinate is doesn't have any dependencies, and the hex geometry has dependency here. Next we have the map builder, which uses all of this. I'm not sure if it should be in the model or not, but we'll keep it here. The hex map has the hex coordinate, terrain and spawn, that's fine, and also the units. So the units is something that's coming in the future, but for the time being, keeping it here. And then the path finding uses the hex coordinate and the hex map to calculate. I don't think that it's part of the model, so let's just create a new folder called pathfinding, and then we just put it there. I'm not so much of a fan of having the folder and the module with the same name, but the time being I think it's fine. That's what we can do. And then the spawn and the terrain, they are very similar classes. They are basically library classes, or they contain library classes as well, that they contain all the types of terrain or spawn. I think they could be in the model as well. They don't have any outside dependency, so they could be like the core part of the model. I think that's so the hex map builder. Why do we need that? Ah, for the neighbors, yes. I think that's quite good for the model part. It was already well structured. Now let's move on the editor. So the editor kind of grew a little bit out of control. I'm not quite sure what's the best order to work them, but let's start with the camera. So the camera uses the vec2. So now the vec2 is in actually model hex coordinate, and that's it. So the camera is quite okay. The editor canvas, okay, it has the UI elements now and the hex coordinate. So as we can see, it has several dependencies and it has the editor, only the editor canvas. So maybe we can merge some stuff together, but I'm not quite sure yet what. Let's see the tool handler. Okay, so the tool handler, it creates the commands that we're gonna use. I think it should be left alone because it has several classes and it's kind of their own structure. The protocols, these are all protocols related to the editor, but this protocol, this option is actually, let's see where it's used. I think it's only used on the UI, so maybe we can okay, so maybe we can move it to the UI elements, because we already have the radius style, so we can have the option picker and the protocol of what an option is, and then we don't need this anymore. Moving on, so we have the observable. That's for the observable variables. They are mostly used here on the editor, but they are also defined in the elements. I think it's more of a generic feature, so definitely not IO, definitely not model, not pathfinding, not UI. It's a tough one, this one, but I think I might create a new one. I don't like the name utils and I think I might rename it in the future, but I'm gonna move the observable to the utils, and let's just create a init PI hex state. So this defines the editor state actually, hex map editor. So maybe we can rename it hex editor state, and let's see what utils observable editor protocol model pathfinding more model. Okay, so this is kind of very independent from any other component of the editor, so that's good. We have the controller here, we move this to the coordinate. So the controller has all the dependencies. It has also the map manager input handler, so it has several classes that help manage and control. The canvas, okay, yeah, the canvas we've been already. And the UI, here we can just move the panel to the elements. Okay, and this is the UI manager and all the widgets and panels that we have. So I think they are kind of okay. We have the commands. They are also self-contained and should be here. Or actually, they could be in the model since they are only using the model, so maybe we can move it here. We have the hex map model that also maybe we have to move it to the model part, although it's the connection between the model and the editor, but we should move it. We could put together with the hex map command, they are closely tied together, but I think we'll keep in separate files. This one, the hex editor state, it contains a lot of information, but it's actually an editor thing, so leave it here. The UI, a lot of editor, and then we have the hex map view. So this one also I'm not quite sure, so it has the hex camera and also the geometry, but it's clearly an editor. But I think it could be together with the editor canvas. I'm not quite sure what's the hex map view. Okay, so it depends on the map view. So maybe we can put this one here. Hex editor mode. Okay, we import that. UI context, we import that, and the panel we import that, and then we can remove this one, so we have only the map view. So the map view will have the view and the canvas, the controller. The camera is kind of independent, but it could be together, I guess. Let's see where it is used. It is used in the controller. Okay, yes. Let's leave it separate. The protocols is protocols for the hex map editor controller. So we have white circular reference, and this one is fine. And I think with this we have a much better MVC. So we have the controller separated, the view and the UI components. The camera is a kind of a alone thing because it operates on several things, so it has the screen to world to screen, and we have the state separate, and then we have all the model contained here. With this I am fairly happy with how things are. So there's something wrong with this one. It's overriding the stand. Okay, that's also not very good, so we can call it hex.io. Yes, so that should fix it. The code restructure is complete. Let's review the to-dos in the GDD and update. Let's go to our game design document on our to-do. So we have this restructure that's done, and we want to add some new tests that I remember. One of them is the single option picker based on the tool. So currently I'm having some trouble whenever I pick one or the other tool and it doesn't do what I'm supposed to do, or it does what's supposed to do, but then it has both options and it's kind of confusing. The other thing that we're thinking about is show the information of the terrain. Information of terrain in the editor, and show information of the cell in the editors. So these are some interesting things that we can have next. So we save all of them, and now we can add our changes and commit them. So let's add this one, the main battle. Oh, this one is not fixed. I have to save some of them. And also it's interesting maybe for us to do a test if everything is still working. So we have the main widgets. Okay, yes, so there is some problem, no module editor observable. So okay, let's try again. Okay, panel update. Panel has no update anymore. So let's just remove it, and we can see it's still working. Okay, that's perfect. And let's see how our editor is. So our editor is kind of isolated, so the controller is responsible for all the imports and everything. So let's see, cannot import hex editor canvas. Okay, so there is, okay, maybe I forgot to save some. Let's close everything. And let's run again the editor. Okay, so everything seems to be working. Everything is fine. Okay, with this I say it's a successful restructure. Let's add all the changes, so gdd and all the affected files, so even if we're not really using them at the moment. So okay, delete this one, editor controller, state, editor UI, command. Okay, observable protocols, tool handler, a lot of inits. Okay, perfect. Panel widgets, init, observable. Now we have the stage changes, and let's commit. So restructure of codes, and commit, and we push, and everything is ready. To summarize, today we restructured the code after our last refactor. The goal is to make the code cleaner and more organized so that the future development and maintenance will be easier. In the next session, we'll start some real coding. Thanks for your time and see you in the next session.